大量に何か不明な瓶を投げられました。白い瓶でした。現在左舷後方です。今衝突しました。今現本線の左舷後方に SI 号が乗り込もうとしています。現在ネットに引っかかって乗り込もうとしています。何かしようとしております。これは何でしょうか。何を何か詰まるを投げて乗り込もうとしておる状況です。非常に危険な状態です。
G'day mates, welcome back to DIY Life. Today I'm on board with Admiral and I'm going to interview Admiral's mum, Kerrie Goodall, who is the owner of the Steve Irwin, which I'm currently on, and we're going to talk about what the plans are for the future for the Steve Irwin and the Ship for Good organisation. How the hell did you end up owning a ship as big as this?
It was not our intention to own the Steve Irwin at all. We had a lease. When we heard that the ship was going to be scrapped, it was, from my point of view, it was an outrage, because what this ship did for the Australian marine environment, specifically in Antarctica, saving over 6,000 whales, what the crew did, what the founder, Captain Paul Watson, did, we really believe that this ship needs to be memorialised like any warship. And so we went about trying to save it, and the most logical way is just to lease it, so we could create a pop-up and do some events and get it all going. Then hopefully somebody else would come along and say, this is terrific, isn't this terrific? You know, we're going to carry the legacy on the vessel as a platform for ocean conservation. So we did a lease. It went extremely well. Somebody came along, all right, it was COVID, and everyone else ran away. So we're left with the ship. The lease was discarded, and if we wanted to continue what we planned to do, we needed to own it, which was not of an interest to me. I've had charter boats before and they're enough hassle. But nonetheless, we exchanged the bill of sale for $10 and have spent a lot more than that over the last 6 years.
I do believe it's your undertaking to create Ship for Good, and I do believe you've funded the entire thing for the last 6 years, thereabouts. You sold your worldly assets, I believe.
I did. We come so far. I saw the power of the ship and the impact it had on people, to motivate them, to help them learn and understand about ocean conservation. And it was really, really hard work, obviously, not just financially, but physically as well, learning how to maintain the ship, functionality of it, mitigating rust, treating it, painting it. I took a job with the company that sold the paint so I could get the paint, because to paint it, like you mentioned, a 59-metre ship from the waterline up takes a lot of paint, and you also have to know how to do it. So yes, the ship was funded by my career and assets, brands, property, you name it. But this is what we've got, and it's worth every cent, particularly with what we want to do with the ship next for conservation, and we're very, very close to that.
Getting a ship for $10 sounds cheap, but they're so expensive to run. Even just sitting at a, docked alongside costs so much money for docking fees and stuff like that. I'm sure you would have come up to some challenges and roadblocks. What were they, and how have you dealt with them?
Yeah, yes, you're correct with all of that. It's very expensive. We had to tow the ship from Melbourne, Australia, all the way to Newcastle, which is north of 70 odd nautical miles north of Sydney. I guess that's about 600 nautical miles or thereabouts. They're very expensive, you can imagine. And then to even find a place to moor the ship is very, very difficult. And then to convince somebody to let you moor their ship there while you continue to improve it. We've been very lucky with some of those opportunities, with the support we've had and the trust that people have put in us. It's another reason that motivates me to ensure this ship is successful. when we can open the ship, when the public can come back onto the ship, we've got some really great revenue streams that can help with the things you've mentioned. We've been offered a few small grants as well, which have helped, and we've had some events on the ship, limited numbers, but some pretty incredible events, large format projection mapping shows and ship tours, guest speakers, music. Yeah, it's very functional space for those types of things. But financially, it's very challenging and continues to be. That's why we've got to get this ship going on campaign and accessible for people to come and enjoy what we can do on the ship.
Because you're starting a fundraiser, and I'm going to ask you what certain amounts of money would help with. What would $10 help with? $10
would help with tinner primer. I've done a lot of rust remediation on the ship, a lot. 6 years of it, thousands of hours, and preparation is everything, but obviously continuous work needs to be done.
What would $1,000 donation help with?
Just to get those 2 engines going, there's probably 5 other motors and engines that need to work. So they all need oil, right, to lubricate them. We could buy probably 4 drums of oil.
How would $10,000 donation feel?
There's a thing called an AVR, automatic volt regulator. We need to fit it to generator 2. Something that is more modern and easier to service and safer. That would pay for half of that, believe it or not. We also have, although the ship is in domestic registration, non-commercial, we want this ship to be up to survey level, and as a result we need all of our CO2 lockers, our fire suppression systems going, and all of our alarms going. So there's some batteries, for instance, up in the fire control panel we need to change out. And some new valves, and that gets gold up pretty quick, but they're really crucial big ticket stuff for the ship's functionality.
What would $100,000 donation cumulatively, with everyone chipping in, 100 grand do and help?
$100,000 will get us on the slip. We don't have any anodes. I've got 16 suspended anodes on the ship, which we have tested, and that protects below the waterline. We can't go anywhere with suspended anodes hanging off the side of the ship. We need to get this ship on the slip, out of the water, and being a ship like this, there's only a couple of places in Australia that can do it, and we've got a reserve space in Brisbane, which is a couple of days sail north from here, that we can take. The ship's actually been out of the water in this slip before. I think it might have been 2008. The ship needs to be slipped. We need anti-foul. So that's when you clean the hull and you put new paint on it to protect the ship from growth and corrosion. And we need new anodes. Anodes help prevent the ship from rusting below the waterline. They're pretty critical. We can't go up to the Great Barrier Reef without those things. That will have to be done about every 5 years. So we'll have 5 years worth of campaigns with that investment, which is pretty powerful. Very, very powerful for our other conservation partners too. There's several organisations, particularly in Queensland, all around Australia, that focus on marine debris retrieval, and they do an absolutely incredible job where they don't have a 59-metre ship with a high ab crane and the ability to carry a lot of weight and process it effectively. We do. So they can use their small boats to bring debris back to the ship for processing. We can also go to where the ghost nets have been identified and tagged with tracking devices, and we can retrieve them with the high ab crane and process them as well.
What inspired you to do all of this? Is it the history of Paul Watson, Greenpeace and Sea Shepherd, how he started Sea Shepherd, and now he was ousted in 2022 from his own organisation? Yeah. Is that something that would have helped you do this, or you would have done it anyway because of his legacy? Or?
Absolutely. Because of what Paul Watson created as a movement with Sea Shepherd and motivating thousands of people worldwide to get involved in conservation like yourself, and in turn the maritime industry. The resilience that Captain Paul Watson showed too helped me also have resilience when he had that awful when they booted him out of a movement that he started and spent his life building up. It's like, well, you know, I've got to keep on going. This man spent his life in conservation. This ship is a lasting legacy to what he's created, and also all the crew that dedicated their time going to the Southern Ocean in particular to defend illegal whaling. So yeah, this is an eco battleship that's historically registered now, but we want it to be functional as well. And what a tribute, to Captain Paul Watson and the crew.
If you could achieve one major milestone with Ship for Good, what would it be?
Every year realising a minimum of 50 tonne of marine debris out of the Great Barrier Reef and Australian waters and processed effectively and transparently, and inspiring people to get involved, volunteer, and to get involved in conservation.
What would you say to the viewers? Because you could break the fourth wall, I believe, and you can look at the camera and speak to our viewers.
Thank you for watching. Thank you very much. I realise that the majority of you are enthusiasts of classic machinery, and this ship is historically registered, and we do intend to have it running on an annual campaign so we can keep everything running functionally and contributing to conservation. But maritime heritage, I'm sure it's very important to a lot of you. It's important to me too, and as a picture, we've got maritime heritage and keeping a classic ship like the beautiful looking ship that is the Steve Irwin, formerly Westerer, in conjunction with functional conservation. It's worth investing a little bit to get us across the line. So there's different ways that you could help do that.
So if you'd like to become a partner, donate your time on the ship, donate some money to the Chuffed campaign, please see the links in the description below, shipforgood.com.au and the Chuffed link. And in the future, the donation link will change probably to a PayPal link, so keep up with that. Thanks. See ya.